Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're going to be in the flower fields, checking out all the beautiful flowers, but also there's going to be some bees on those flowers trying to get us points. Today we're taking a look at flower fields. This is a polyomino game. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In flower fields, there's going to be all different types of shapes of polyominoes, as well as different colors that you're going to be trying to put together on your board. But you're also going to be using bees as currency to get better tiles, but also to induct scoring. Let's tell you what you're trying to do. Every player is going to get a board. This is how it might look at the end of the game. What you're trying to do is put contiguous large groups of the same colors together. Like this red group is the largest one on my board, and it is 1, 2. Some of these areas, this is one big area. This is a single area, so it's our zone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zones, and there's 2 bees, so it's 6 times the 2 bees, that's 12 points for red. For blue, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zones times 1, so it's 6 points. This red area doesn't score because it's only your largest of those colors. Orange, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 1, 5 points. And then the whites, it's just 1 per everyone in your largest area. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'll also get 5 points for every completed row and or column. Row and column, and you look at every one of those and you'll get 5 points for each of those as well. And whoever has the most points is the winner. And there is a little cheat sheet pad that you go through all of this easy and add it all up. So how do you go about doing this? Well, there's going to be a certain amount of tiles laid out per round. The game's played over 3 rounds. Each round is going to be a certain amount of tiles depending on the players. And on your turn, you can do 1 of 4 things. One of the things you could do is take the next tile for free. That's just clockwise from the sun. So I could take this for free and then be the next player's turn. Now, everyone has the same board. There's 4 different sides. Everyone uses the same side down. You can see there's already some pre-printed things on the board. You can cover them if you want, but your first tile has to be on the bottom row somewhere. And then every other tile after that has to touch a tile. You'll notice there's some printed things on the boards. Those sort of count for scoring. You can cover them up, but they don't count. I can't put a tile here because this isn't really a tile, it's just a board. So my next tile placement has to touch this in some way orthogonally. Now, if the next player wanted a tile, but they didn't want this one, they wanted this one, they could skip this by placing one of the bees. You start with some. This is a currency in the game, and they could take this and then place it. So placing a tile is one thing you could do. If this comes back around and you take something that has bees on it, well, you get the bees as well. Another thing you can do is take one of these small flower tiles. Let's say I take this one. In order to do that, I must pay now the 2 bees that are down there to get that. Now, when you place this, you can also, because it has a bee spot on it, I can place a bee. Now, if I do this, again, it's going to how I'm going to score. If this was my biggest area, again, at the end, I'd have 1, 2, 3 zones times 1. This has already got me 3 points. Now, let's say I added another one a little later. Let's say I did this. If you place a tile with a bee, you can place a bee if you have one. Now, what you're going to have to do is you'll place a bee, but you'll look at how many bees you had before it in that area, and you will have to discard that many. So this one actually is going to cost me 2. 1 to place here and 1 to discard. Now later on, if I place this and I want to place a bee, well, I have to discard 2 bees and then place a 3rd bee. So every time it exponentially gets more costly to do so, but this is your multiplier of scoring. So one thing you can do is take a tile, another thing is take a small tile, a third thing is just place a bee in my garden, because I might have a tile earlier that maybe I didn't have a bee for, but I have bees now, and for my turn, I can do that and put a bee here. And sometimes you'll do that just to also stall because you don't want any of these and you don't want to spend any currency and you want some other player to start getting some of these tiles because maybe you really want this one, but you can't afford it yet. And the last possible option, you only have 4, is to take 2 bees from this. So again, you could just take bees and, again, it also stalls here as well. So as players are paying for bees, you can be taking bees from there as well. That's pretty much the game. 1 of 4 actions, go to the next player. And at the end, the round ends when all the tiles around that circle are gone. And then one thing that happens is you're going to add up how many beehives you have and subtract how many spiders you have. And that's how many additional bees you get for currency to your thing before you start the next round. So you're trying to cover spider webs and trying not to cover the beehives if possible. That is pretty much the game. Whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds is the winner. All right, what I first like about this, flower fields, it's basically as if the games Patchwork and Kingdomino had a baby, Patchwork, because you're going around that circle grid, grabbing polyominoes, putting them on your square grid. Pretty much that part's pretty much the same, except how the time works. And then Kingdomino it's got the bees are the icons. That's the multiplier scoring. But the big difference here is that you're placing the bees, and so you're determining where and when these things score. So it does feel different in that regard. But I like both those games, and they sort of blended together well in this. I like that the game has quick turns. You've got 4 choices. Take a tile, take a small tile, take some bees, or play some bees. That's pretty much it. And the turns are pretty quick, and it's snappy, and there's no downtime. It's just go. It's very quick, but there's a lot to think about. I like that you're taking a tile that's further, but you got to pay for that. You got to pay the currency of bees, which while you're in the round, it's a closed economy. Then at the end of the round, you get a little bit more infused in, but then once the round starts, it's like, everything is there. And I like that aspect that you can pay, but you got to really find the choices, because what you're giving up is how you're going to possibly score, right? So it's hard to pay a lot to get something, but if you really want something, you got to do it, and it makes for good decisions. I like that you're taking the small tile for the cost of bees. So you've got to pay those 2 bees to take the tile, but it's a small one. It can fit, it can grid together the things you want. You can also place a bee on those tiles, but that also gives more bees for your opponent to take. You take a small tile. If there are no bees on that mat at that point, they can take them, right? If they don't take them, well, then you can take the ones you just put back. Maybe they wanted to get a tile they want really bad. So there's a lot of interesting things you could see. The timing of this game is probably the most interesting aspect, because I could know that they really want that next tile, and I'm going to, take a small tile, put the bees there. I know they're going to take that next tile, and I'll get my bees right back. And guess what? Maybe the next tile is good for me too. So there's a lot of interesting timing aspects to this game. I like the bees themselves. Sometimes you're offering up, or sometimes your opponent offers them up, and it might change your decision. Sometimes you've got a plan, and you're like, ooh, they just took that. I'm low on bees. They just put 2 bees out. I kind of wanted this next tile, but I'm really broke. I think I'm going to take them. So sometimes that throws a monkey wrench, and you've got to be able to pivot. This game is very tactical in that regard. The game scales well at all the player counts. There's just more tiles around for people to take, but because the turns are nice and quick, it scales well. The multiplier scoring is interesting because it's only doing it on your largest one. So you really have to focus early as to what is going to be my biggest area for this color. And I'm going to place a bee on it. You might not place bees towards the beginning, because for your turn, you could place bees later, and it helps you sort of stall. So again, the timing of this, placing bees or taking bees, sometimes you're not even just doing it for that. Sometimes you might be doing it because you want somebody else to go, because you don't want the tile there. And so that's an interesting aspect of the timing as well. But placing the bees for the multiplier, you determining which thing scores, is a really clever thing here. I like the ascending costs of the bees. So it's like, the first one just cost me 1. The second one cost me 2. The third one cost me 3, essentially. So every time the cost goes up and up and up because of that multiplier scoring. I like that. It also makes you try to sort of make 2 groups join later, right? Because if you could make 2 groups, pay the bees, and then join them together, you just made a huge group for a lot cheaper than making a huge group and adding to it constantly and adding bees to it constantly. It's almost like that Carcassonne thing where you make 2 things and you bring them together with a tile. That's an interesting puzzle that really is, the person that does that the best is probably going to win, because it's going to make them the most efficient, and it's going to have them the most points in the end. So that's an interesting strategy there. I like that you're trying to cover the spider webs, but you're trying not to cover the beehives, because essentially at the end of the round, you're getting the currency for those. And I thought that was another clever thing. Also, the printed parts on the board, using those as sort of guiding areas as to where you want to start building colors and such. Overall, I really enjoyed the game. I don't have a lot of bad things to say here. One is, if you don't like polyomino games, this isn't going to make you like one. Okay, it's not like this earth-breaking thing that's like, oh, all of a sudden now I like polyomino games. No, if you don't like putting the grids together, doing this and that, this probably isn't the game for you. The bigger problem I had with the game was the graphic design. Overall, I love the look of the game. It looks timeless, it looks classic. Horrible Games tends to make games that look really nice, and this does. But the graphic design on the tiles themselves, each tile could be 1 zone, or it could be 2 zones. And a zone, and your biggest zone is an area. So there's this different terminology. Then there's the tiles. Sometimes they're 1 zone, sometimes they're 2. And even the ones that's 1, they have a little indentation on there. So if you look at it really quickly, you might think it's 2. I don't know why they even put those there. I think they put them there to make sure that you line them up to the grid. I don't think that's necessary. I think when you say in the rules it has to line up perfectly to each of the squares in the grids, that should have said enough. I think putting those extra little tiny little blips in the middle confuses people a lot, and it makes them hard to wrap their head around. And that's the biggest part of the game, is how many zones do I have in this area to score? I think they should have just went with just a straight big rectangle without those little things. I think it causes a lot of confusion, causes a lot of people to have a bad first play, even if you point it out to them. But those are some minor nitpicks. Overall, the game's really good. If you like Kingdomino, if you like Patchwork, no-brainer, you're gonna like this game. If you didn't like either of those games, it might not be the game for you. But overall, I enjoyed it. That is Flower Fields. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships, and board games by helping you find the next one you love.
Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their Christmas spectacular sale is currently running, where you can get 15% off all accessories and premium game mats with storage solutions, $100 off leg kits with a purchase of a Holmes or Watson Game Topper, and $75 off all dining covers. The sale runs through December 22nd at GameToppersLLC.com.